of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated. We've had some discussion, and we believe that as long as we do not face each other, that we can remove our mask so that you guys can hear us more plainly.
That's authority, nurse.
So we try to not look at each other and look towards you.
Okay.
And we should be fine in that note. For the roll call, please recognize that all board members are here except for Deborah Mary. We really feel for her. She lost her father, and so she was traveling to be with the rest of the family. So we ask for your thoughts and prayers for Deborah Mary and her family. Our visitor comments. Are there any visitors? There are no visitors, so we'll go straight to the consent agenda. We have approval of minutes from the September 21st, 2020 collective bargaining public hearing, from the October 20th, 2020 regular board meeting, for the October 27th work session, and the November 9th tentative agreement public meeting. For financial, we have the treasurer's report for October of 2020. And Mr. Durnall, could you read us the claims?
Thank you, sir. Gross wages for October 9th, 2020 is $619,446.37. Gross wages for October 23rd, 2020 are $567,991.65. Vouchers and claims, prepays from 10/1/20 to 10/31 of 20, $803,180.62. Claims and vouchers for November 16, 2020 is $169,334.26. Claims and vouchers for Forest Hills, 11/17 of 2020, $12,566.16 for a grand total of $2,172,519.06.
Okay, we also have a number of donations. $500 from Kappa 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 Inc. for COVID health and wellness. We have 4,000 masks, 500 gloves, 10 gallons of hand sanitizer from Cook Medical. And donations for the Student Assistance Fund consist of $150 from Deborah and Stephen Goodner, $50 from Mary Penzian, $100 from Alice Leake, $100 from Nancy and Larry Lux, and $50 from Don and Sandra Frund. We also have Personnel D, resignations, retirements, non-renewals, leaves, and terminations 1 through 3, and E, appointments and transfers 1 through 15. That being the consent agenda, do we have a motion?
I move approval.
I second.
Any questions on the consent agenda?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the business manager's report, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Irwin.
You guys hear me all right? Yeah? I put the 3 major funds up there on your tables as normal. They'll look a little bit different than what I sent you earlier in the week just because I made some updates to it. On Friday of this, or actually Monday of this week, they just released the latest DPI 54 form, which just updated our tuition support through the state of Indiana based on our September ADM. So I made some adjustments to that to also reflect summer school reimbursement as well. So I made some adjustments there to the education fund with those projections, as I continually do as new data comes available, or we kind of firm up some of the projections that we have. But again, we feel good about where we're at right now. We feel that we're pretty confident to wind up with our cash balance goal at the end of the year that we've been shooting for, which is still trying to end up with a month's worth of operating balance as a cash balance at the end of the year. We've made great stride in that over the course of the year. So that's something that we're definitely happy with. In the debt service fund, There's not much to talk about there. We've made all of our debt payments. We make our debt payments in January and July. I'll continue to reiterate that, but we had no expenditures in the debt service fund. Operations is also in good standing. Again, our projections have stayed very accurate. And so we're on track to end the year in a similar position as to what we did last year, which again is a very positive thing, with all the things that we've been navigating this year. And just some of the adjustments that we've had to make throughout the year, we feel good about that standing with where we think we'll end up being here on December 31st. So again, you guys continue to track and look at those beginning year cash balances and then where we think we'll end up at the end of the year. And so we just continue to kind of make sure we shore those things up the year goes on. And obviously with us being mid-November right now, again, we feel pretty confident with where we're going to end up being. So.
Any questions for Mr. Irwin? Mr. Irwin, I just want to say thank you for the hard work this year, and Dr. Sanders as well.
Yes, sir.
On the budget. These times are crazy, to say the least, and to know that we have a cash balance of a month's reserve is very important for us moving forward. So we appreciate the hard work that you've done to make that happen.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
We have a social emotional learning team report. Dr. Sanders, would you like to introduce them?
Yes. RB's social emotional learning team, led by Jennifer Anderson and Tom Norris, are doing some amazing work to support the mental health of our students and staff. And I get so excited when I hear them talk about it. I immediately think that the board and the public needs to hear the great things we're doing. So I asked Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Norris to come here tonight and to give us a report, and I believe that you will find the report to be very interesting.
Hello, can you hear me okay with this on? All right. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing us to talk a little bit about our social emotional team. It was what seems like a very long year ago that I stood here and we talked about the grant that we received through the U.S. Department of Ed for $2.5 million in coordination with IU School of Psychology to help boost our social emotional supports for RBB and to increase the capacity of school psychology students working outside of a typical scope of what a school psychologist does, which is assessment and evaluation, and really delve into those social emotional supports and direct counseling that they're trained to do but typically don't ever have an opportunity to do. So what we wanted to do tonight, Tom and I have kind of divided up what we're going to be speaking about. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the personnel that we've been able to hire. You all have a copy of this sheet that has our entire presentation on it. And then you also have a second copy of the organizational chart, and it should be on the top left corner of your desk. So we were able to hire over this summer 2 school psychologists through the TIMS grant, one of them at the doctorate level and one of them at the EDS level. We also were able to hire a licensed mental health counselor, which is a incredible bonus for RBB to have somebody whose sole responsibility is to counsel students, especially in the elementary level. She has a skill set that not many other people have, and she's not bogged down in a way by testing that counselors tend to do in the secondary level. So to have an elementary licensed mental health counselor to support our students is quite novel, and it's also an incredible benefit to our students. We have Tom, who's the student services coordinator, and over the last year, even though he came to us in January, his role has been redefined with the additional personnel that we've been able to hire with the 2 school psychologists and the mental health counselor. And so Tom has taken on some of those coordination responsibilities, especially with a lot of our outside coordinators, our outside service providers, excuse me. He's been able to coordinate all the 504s in the district. He's been able to coordinate adult and child, youth first, all of our release of informations for physicians' offices, for parents. So anybody who's receiving services, whether it be through RBB or through outside services, everything's coordinated and housed in one area. So everybody on the SEL team, teachers, principals, all know where these services are coming from. They all know who's doing what with the students. And so having that role defined this year really has provided more services to the students. In partnership with the IU School of Psychology, we have 2 doctorate level graduate students who actually provide direct services to our most needy students, those students in our EH classrooms. They are doing manualized trauma-informed interventions with these students. We also are able to have 2 graduate interns who also work with our virtual students. So our virtual students are needing support in social emotional health and wellness, and we're able to provide that through the virtual program through these additional 2 graduate students. We have 2 psychology practicum students who are working with our current school psychologists to learn the assessment and the evaluation part of it. They're also an integral part of our team. And then just recently, we were able to add in 2 EDS level students that are going to be working within the school corporation hourly to help provide more support in our data interpretation. A lot of what we do relies on data, making sure that our interventions and supports are being implemented with fidelity, and that we're utilizing the right intervention for the right student for the right amount of time. So these 2 additional students are helping us kind of disaggregate all of that data to make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to work. So the additional staff that we were able to bring on has provided the students incredible supports at all levels. And I will say that right now our focus is on K-8 with the grant, but just last week, Tom and I were discussing that we're ready to go ahead and move into the high school. This is about a year in advance. We've been able to refine these practices and refine roles and responsibilities over the last 3 months, and feel that we have the system down well enough that we can start moving into the high school and providing more supports at the high school. So sent an email to Mr. Ackerman late Friday, and I know he was gone all weekend, but we're looking forward to having the opportunity to talk with him about how we can further these supports for students with the personnel that we have. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom, because he's going to talk about the outside partnership, because that's his area.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. I really do look forward to speaking about our team in my next part, but our partnership that we have right now is very strong with Adult and Child and Youth First. We are really excited to be able to remove barriers for families to receive these outside therapy sessions. I think so many times whenever you're trying to get students into an intake, there's scheduling, and there's trying to find the opportunity for that to happen. When I speak to families, I usually tell them it's hard for me to find a time to get a haircut and go to the grocery stores with my own kids, let alone set up all these other schedules. So by having these providers within our school, we are really eliminating a lot of barriers for families. Our team is doing a really fabulous job, I feel, of trying to make sure that we're putting the right support with the right provider. So in just the same way that our teachers and administrators look at academically, what is that tiered level of support we really need, our behavior and SEL team is doing the exact same thing. So we are really excited to work with Adult and Child. Right now, Isaac Martin, he came in at the very end of last year, and just whenever we went to a mandated shutdown, he was hired on. I thought that guy really did a great job of continuing to reach out to families. He worked well with me throughout the whole shutdown. We had weekly meetings talking about intakes that we're trying to get scheduled. We were trying to figure out how we could provide telehealth to families. So he has really done a great job of continuing that from last semester on. Lane Howard at the high school is a 50-50 split with adult and child and RBB. We have just really started to work together this year, as Mrs. Anderson mentioned, prior to, within the last couple weeks, seeing how we can our team can get involved at the high school. So we're really excited about that partnership and working with her to continue to have her provide some extra supports and to services and to students. And then just recently, we've hired a school-based specialist. So when a student has an intake, they look at different categories and levels of support. So one student may get, so many hours of support through therapy. Another student could be provided with therapy and what is called a skills package. And just recently, Adult and Child has provided us with a skills specialist that can go into the classrooms and work one-on-one with students directly. For a lot of our students in a self-contained classroom, the ultimate goal is to get them back out into a general ed classroom. A skills specialist could actually go with that student and provide them with behavior support that an instructional assistant really is just not as qualified for. So that behavior specialist can go into that classroom, work with that student, and instead of removing that student to the office or removing that student back to the self-contained room, that skill specialist is actually going to be able to provide them with that support right then and there to practice that skill in the hallway, to practice that skill right there that they've been working on. So we're very excited about that addition. Just recently, this past week, Mrs. Anderson and I were able to talk to the director at Adult and Child. They've continued to see our referrals increase in a positive way. They've continued to see that we're able to reach out to parents so that these intakes can happen, and they've continued to see that our area of need is worth providing an extra therapist. So we're very excited that Isaac's caseload can be well managed. Lane's caseload can be well managed with this new addition of another therapist that will be coming on board soon. So we are very excited about our partnership with them. Youth First, I think that Dr. Sanders did a great job, obviously, in being forward-thinking and seeing that need whenever they did the Lilly grant. And our collaboration with them has continued to grow this year in a very, very positive way. Jesse Laughlin has just done an outstanding job working with our students in that building, being able to provide mainly Tier 1 support. We are able to have a little more flexibility with Youth First, and so she can provide a lot of layer of Tier 1 support. She's getting into a self-contained classroom to do the Why Not program that Mrs. Anderson can talk a little bit more about later. But that partnership is also something that we've continued to see grow this year, more than I think I did while I was here last year. So these outside organizations, along with Centerstone, Little Star, we have continued to just do, I think, a better job of getting releases of information from these facilities so that we can have that to discuss in our SEL coaches meetings, and to just be able to make better determinations on what sort of services we're actually needing to get to our students.
So Tom had mentioned Why Try. Why Try is a program designed to provide universal Tier 1 social emotional supports on topics that are relative to students in the secondary setting. So we were able to purchase Why Try program, and all the teachers in the junior high are going to be trained and implement Why Try program, I believe during homeroom time. Is that correct, Mr. Siglin? They'll be doing that during homeroom time. This year, we're also jumping into getting that Why Try program set up for the high school. That's going to take a little more finagling and a little more working together to try to figure out how we can do that. But the same thing, we'll be providing all the training for the teachers for that. It's an intensive training. It's about 8 hours worth of training to implement this. And it's, like I said before, geared towards secondary students and for the social emotional needs of the secondary students. At the elementary and the intermediate and the primary level, we have purchased Second Step, which is a nationwide recognized curriculum that is kind of the leader in SEL support. Every teacher in pre-K through grade 5 has their own Second Step curriculum, and we'll continue with that. We'll be delving into that training over the summer and coming up into the next year. For those teachers, they have enough going on right now that we don't need to kind of jump in. We've got some of the other supports in place right now, but we'll be implementing that over the next year and getting them trained on using the Second Step curriculum. It blends seamlessly during like circle time in the morning. It's very short, very quick, very prescribed, something that would just occur naturally. There's just themes that go along with it, so we're really excited about that implementation. And again, it's a universal Tier 1 support. The next one I want to talk about is called TBRI, which is Trust-Based Relational Intervention. It's an attachment-based, trauma-informed intervention that's designed to meet the complex needs of vulnerable children. TBRI was something that we found out about through one of our meetings with Martinsville. They have begun to implement that. So one of our Lilly meetings, I kind of went and gave another phone call and said, tell me more about this, because we were really intrigued as to what it was. They had mentioned how profoundly impactful it has been on their entire school community. So last February, is that when it was? Is that right? All of the administrators loaded up in Mr. Siglin's van, and we went up for a one-day training on TBRI up to Lebanon, and we went through a one-day shortened version of the training, and on our way home, I felt like we were kids in a candy store. We were giddy, we were excited, we kept saying, this is exactly the piece we're missing, this is the piece we're missing, this is gonna pull everything together and really help everybody have a common language, everybody understand what's going on. This is the piece that we're missing. The academic RTI instructional process and tier process is fantastic here. This is the part we need to kind of bring this all together. So Tom and I wrote a grant to the Community Foundation of Monroe County, and 2 weeks ago we found out that we were the recipients of that grant. So it's for $25,000, and it's for the entire year of implementation of TBRI, which we could not be more excited about. And the Community Foundation asked that I read a short statement from them. We would just say that we applaud that RBB CSC is strongly committed to the SEL needs of the students and pleased to support this important effort, especially as we all navigate these difficult times together. So this is not something that is just implemented from the principals to the teachers. This is across the entire corporation, from everybody in central admin, bus, transportation, maintenance, health, food service. Everyone will be trained in this. So we're really excited to get this going. We have the proposal back from Amy Abel, who runs this, and we're looking at late spring to start implementing. So we are beyond thrilled and very thankful to the Community Foundation for taking a chance on us and granting us that grant. So that's my part for that. So the big question is, how do we know this is working? And that's what Tom's going to talk about in just a second.
I think I was really excited about this part, and if anybody thought they were going to go home early, I'm sorry, because this is too good to talk about. The next three individuals that I'm going to talk about are service providers. I'm happy to coordinate services, and I love my job, but I don't think I get any more joy out of my job than hearing and seeing these service providers. Heather Remstead, Abby Dixon, and Brittany Straw provide services, and they are experts at what they do. They care about what they do, and it is so exciting to know that all the times that we have wanted to pick up a phone call from a parent that says, I need some help with my student. And I think for so many years at the elementary level especially, do you have a guidance counselor? Well, no, we don't have a guidance counselor, but we have people who care, obviously. These are individuals who are building this platform of social and emotional learning, and they are building it very strong. I think that if I were building a house, I want these guys to build my foundation, because I just can't get over the job that they're doing right now. So I applaud Jennifer on her hires, on the work that she did on the TIMS grant, and obviously Dr. Sanders in knowing that we need to be able to provide social emotional learning to our students. So I couldn't be more thrilled about the things they do. They're putting out newsletters monthly. They're providing weekly updates or weekly focuses to building administrators to put out to their staff. We meet weekly right now. We feel eventually we will be able to meet bi-weekly, but right now we meet weekly to discuss the students that are getting referred by either teachers, administrators, or parents. We are meeting weekly to discuss what the supports are happening, and then we are meeting weekly to review those interventions. Are they working? Are they not? Do we need to remove? Do we need to increase? And that really goes a lot with the philosophy that our administrators and leaders have on academics. They understand that if you're going to put an intervention in, you're going to need to monitor that. So just last year, through the TIMS grant, they had a screener, very similar to what we do academically, but it's going to look at-risk students for behaviors. So SABRS is a screener that we put in last year, and this year we are going to be able to hopefully do that 3 times. Last year, certain buildings did it twice. The junior high did it once, and this year our goal is to K through 8 do that 3 times. Very similar to what we do academically. 3 times a year, we put in a screener. From that screener, we're going to progress monitor those students that are at risk. So SABRS, I feel like we're ahead of the game, honestly, when we are looking at students. There are going to be students who academically can fly on a radar if we didn't have those screeners, and the same thing would happen with a student that may need some support who's at risk without that screener. Data is very important, and we know that, and we need to be able to monitor that, and that's what IM4 is. The goal with IM4 is a software system that we are going to be able to, once that screener occurs and we're going to meet on a student, if we're able to utilize this data system by the end of this school year to prepare for next year, I will feel great. It is a lot of information that we can get on a student. It not only tracks data that you're going to monitor, but it's also going to provide us with specific interventions that you can utilize for students, and it's also going to say who is going to provide that intervention. So there's a lot of fidelity and accountability that comes from this, so we're very excited about this program. And then overall, our academic and behavior goals you see there, our goal is to see, is it working? Is it decreasing the behaviors, and is it increasing the academic value that students need as we're working through this? So.
The second set of paperwork that I gave you is the organizational system for SEL. It's the one that has the blue and green lines at the top of it. We sat down about a month and a half ago to kind of sift through all of the providers we had and figure out where everyone needs to be, who has what strengths, where they would be a good fit. So as you'll notice on this very first page, there are several people who extend across multiple schools. You'll see PRN, kind of like in a hospital, per request needed. That's what that means. FSC is a family service coordinator, and SSC is student service coordinator. So you'll see FSC behind Jill Cronin and SSC behind Tom. This already in a month and a half has changed dramatically because of the supports that we are finding that we're needing. And we're also really excited to be able to extend more of these supports over into the high school. So this is kind of just a generalized overview of who works where and where they provide service to. On the second page, this is how we divvied up some of the responsibilities. So this was the initial thought as to who would be responsible for what. Again, this has morphed and changed. Although we felt the system is very good, starting out, we know that as we refine our craft and our practices and students' needs change, that we would have to change roles and responsibilities. So some of this has started to change a little bit, but these are the basic responsibilities that each person holds for their role as SEL team members. So I just wanted you to have an idea and understanding of what the basic responsibilities are for each of the individuals. In closing, I'm going to read this because I can't memorize this anymore. It's too long. Overall, we want to increase the capacity of our students to identify their own feelings, other feelings, and their own needs in order to help them learn necessary coping skills, transfer those skills to all settings, get the necessary resources in order for them to be academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally successful students. This is truly a team effort. And although not perfect, we do have a lot of kinks to work out, we are working diligently, and most importantly, we're working together in collaboration with all buildings for the success of all of our students. And I could not be more proud of these individuals and what they provide our kids on a daily basis. It's absolutely amazing to see them in work, and I have the pleasure of being in an office with 4 of them and to listen to them bounce ideas off one another, help support. Have you tried this? What about this? I'm really struggling trying to figure this out. Can you work through this? And it's all for the betterment of the students. So Dr. Sanders, your initial thought and vision of social emotional supports has come to fruition, and we cannot thank you enough for leading us that direction. So thank you all.
Does the board have any questions?
No, I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. It's so important, and I just appreciate everything that you guys are doing and putting in the time for our students.
We're grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
You know, our number one goal is to provide our students with the services they need to help them to be successful. That is obviously the intent of all of our efforts. However, it also provides great support for our teachers and our principals. As you know, they already have so much on their plates, and they wear so many different hats. And I know if they were to get up and speak tonight, they'd be very thankful for this program because there are only so many hours in the day. And I know it gives them great relief to know that there is somebody working to help these students who might be struggling with mental health issues. So it provides great support. It makes our teachers, our principals better. It also provides great support for our parents who sometimes you don't know where to go for what's going on with your child. And to know that they have such a quality program in our RBB schools that a parent can rely on and trust in has to be a great assurance to our parents as well. And you know, none of this would work without Jennifer and Tom working so hard to provide the leadership and making sure all the pieces fit together. So great report. Thanks for coming and all that you do.
I did have a couple questions. How do you get referrals if a parent believes that their child is in need of some sort of services? Who do they contact?
Yeah, so there is on the SEL website, there's a parent referral. In every building, there's also a referral system, so it goes directly to all of us, and then we, like I said, meet weekly and bring up those referrals every time.
And I understand we received a lot of grants to get this going. Are these grants things that can be renewed? Are we going to have to find out how to sustain this program that you've created?
The Community Foundation grant for TBRI, the most recent one, that is a one-time, one-year, $25,000 grant, which will cover all of the training for it. And what our goal is to have Heather Rimston and Abby Dixon, the school psychologist, and Brittany Straw all go through the training as well. And what they're going to go through it anyway, but they will focus mainly on being able to sustain that. So anybody who is new to RBB will have that yearly training through our own individuals in the corporation. So that sustainability piece won't cost any more after this initial first year. We do have the opportunity to add some of the extra supports in through TBRI. Through the TIMS grant, there is money allocated for that. So if we want to have some more follow-up, Amy does come down and she works with principals and works with buildings individually if they seem to be struggling with one thing or another. So that's where the school psychologist and the licensed mental health counselor will be in contact with her and say, hey, you know, we think this building here needs a little more help on this. Can you come down? And we can pull those funds from the TIMS grant. Regarding the TIMS grant, we do have an obligation to keep one of the school psychologists. That is part of it, and that was the initial agreement with that. Everybody else is training. It's a training demonstration grant, so Abby Dixon and Heather Rimsett, the two psychologists, one will be retained should they accept the position. And then Brittany is here, not particularly through the TIMS grant, although we are applying some of her salary this year through it, but she's here as an RBB employee for the long term. And then the school psychologist students that are working with us, the goal of this grant is to train them in social emotional learning as well as the evaluation and assessment process so they can go out and get employed in a specialty that's not seen other places.
So are any of the services covered by maybe Medicaid or insurance that could help support?
Yes, Dr. Rimstead, who she is the lead school psychologist on the TIMS grant, she is getting her HSPP, which will allow her to sign off on the counseling services and any services that are licensed mental health counselor will provide to students who are served by IEPs. They will also cover any other school psychologist who does any type of counseling as well, or a social worker that we can hire. If they're serviced by an IEP, we can build Medicaid for that. So she's getting that HSPP. She should have it by the end of the year, this year, to be able to start signing off on those, because that's what we have to have for Medicaid eligibility.
What kind of vulnerabilities are you seeing, or what kind of things should parents, as a parent, I would wonder, okay, where's the point I need to make a referral? Mm-hmm. What kind of tips the scales to say that my student needs help?
I'm gonna let Tom step in. He's the one who's more involved in that part of it.
Well, I will honestly say, after the last year, I think we all need those services, honestly. So I think a couple things to help parents out. Number one, our Sabre screener is going to do just that. It's going to provide us with the opportunity to maybe reach out before a parent thinks that they need to. So I think that's a really important part in our job, is making sure that we're doing a good job of being that proactive part for that. For parents, I think we are providing that monthly newsletter now, and Abby Dixon has just really done an outstanding job of doing just that, of providing that informational text, articles, podcasts, and lots of other information for parents to look at, so that if they do have concerns, some of those maybe early signs, I think that she's doing a really good job of highlighting that. So I'd say look out for that SEL newsletter every month, and then just like always, communicate that concern with anybody at the school.
Thank you. Sorry, but Dr. Sanders, it got me so interested in this. I had a lot of questions, so thank you very much tonight.
Can I ask you a couple questions? You got me excited too.
Sure.
So I had three things on the TIMS grant. If I remember right, Dr. Anderson, it was was 5 years initially, right? And we've just completed our first year?
Correct.
Okay, so is the theory after the 5-year plan is that we can sustain this internally?
Yes.
With training of staff
Correct.
and teachers and administrators? Okay.
So
all
a lot
right.
of the work that we're doing in this first year is that foundational piece, all the trainings for the Y Try, all the trainings for Second Step, all of that is going to be able to be continued on through whichever school psychologist that the school corporation determines they'll hire at the end of the grant. So when we wrote the grant, we wanted to keep in mind that, one, school corporations don't have a ton of money to just throw around to things. Two, that it had to be very, very sustainable. So we wanted to put in place and put into practice a lot of supports that didn't require a lot of additional funding. For Y Try, it's a license of 50 individuals who can be on a license, and the yearly renewal for all of those people is $2,000, which in the big scheme of things isn't a lot. If we determine that, maybe we want to go in a different direction, or maybe that only a particular class is going to implement Y Try and every student's going to run through that class, then it's just $99 per person. So you get to a point of 0 to so many people, it's $99 a person for a yearly renewal that includes everything, or you move from 20-something to 50 and it jumps, it does jump up in cost. But those are the things that we would build in, that we know we have to build in. So those costs in the grand scheme of things are fairly minimal, but the implementation part, the person monitoring that is what the big kicker is with all of this. That's who the school psychologist who remains on, that's who's going to be the one who is managing and monitoring and providing all of the trainings for all of the supports that we have in place.
Okay.
So we want to make sure these next 4 years, we really
Right.
kind of build on that and get a good foundation.
And you want to build a plan that you can sustain
Right.
successfully, but at the same time, we're continually on the lookout for new grants.
Yeah.
So as we get down the road here, we will continue to look for grants. If we have grants and we have an opportunity to write another grant that we've already had, we will do that. We'll look for new grants in order to help the sustainability.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Ormiston actually just contacted me today, and we're getting ready to write another one. So,
And we've been blessed with some fantastic grant students too.
Yeah.
Everyone's worked with the administration here, and that's.
Yeah.
I know last year my concern was, my gosh, that's a nice grant, and then I'm thinking, how's this all going to coordinate? And this, I kind of see how the hierarchy is working here. And as far as you mentioned the SEL webpage, is that something that there's a link, I assume, from the RBB webpage, and parents could go to that? Can teachers, Mr. Norris, refer students?
yeah, the SEL, there's two things. There's the Google Classroom, which is every teacher has access to the SEL Google Classroom. So they've been asked continually to join that in there. So when they open up their Google Classroom, they see the SEL Google Classroom. And then the SEL website has a link on there, but also on the new website, SEL will have its own dedicated page with the website on there. And then it'll have all the newsletters that go out, it will have resources, it will have how to contact. So when the new webpage, or when the new website comes up, that will be a part of the new website. So they can click on social emotional learning, and you'll see everything that Abby has put together, and she's going to be the one who's going to be managing that piece of it.
Okay, and these are students, not all specifically designated special education beforehand. These are any student,
Yes.
correct?
Any
Okay.
student in the corporation.
And have you seen a breakdown, like, to the 4 different schools, who has the most students in the program already? I mean, versus the high school, junior high, EIS and EPS?
We haven't delved into that yet because we don't feel that we have had enough time for true implementation. We decided over this summer when we got together that our goal for the first month to 6 weeks of school was going to be almost like a crisis plan, that we were going to be made available to all the teachers whenever they needed. So if somebody just needed a break or a mask break, they were able to just run down and support them. So we really didn't put a lot of these supports and interventions in place until we were pretty far along in September, and that's when we started kind of refining roles and responsibilities. We just wanted to make sure that students were supported and teachers were supported to the best of our ability when we started back in this new hybrid, strange world of school with masks and social distancing. So that was our main goal during the first month to 6 weeks of school. And then that's when we started to say, okay, we're starting to get calls on this particular student, let's get a plan in place for them. Let's get our sheet rolling, our SEL Google Doc rolling, that has, oh gosh, what do you have all on it? He's got about everything in the world on it to monitor, so
Yeah.
go ahead, Tom.
So, I mean, our sheet just has every single student. It has if they are identified with special ed or not identified with special ed, do they have a 504 plan? And then as referrals come in, we put the note in about what the referral's for. We put in service provider, and then we'll put in notes about that, and then that's just what we're continuing to update right now. Eventually that will be housed in IM4, but that's kind of how we started to do that multi-tiered system of support right now. And it has everything from, are they serviced through adult and child? Are they serviced through, Youth First? And then all the different providers through RBB.
Okay.
And we'll start to, our first big delve into disaggregating all that data will be in January, when we sit down after the second SABRs, when we give the second round of the SABRs, and then we'll compare that to the first round to the second round of SABRs, and then we'll look at those and see if we have a high propensity of special ed students that are needing more support, or we have more boys that are needing more support, or girls who are needing more support this way. So it's just something that we're gonna start looking into once we feel we have enough data to really, or enough information to give us some really good data to start looking at.
Is SABR's like an online survey that all the students take?
It's taken by the teachers.
Taken by the teachers? Oh, okay.
It's about
So they're identical.
20 questions, 23 questions, about 3 to 5 minutes per student
So every student?
in their class.
Oh, in their class?
Yeah, in their
Okay.
class.
So at the high school, it wouldn't be maybe just homerooms?
Yes,
teachers.
yeah,
Okay.
I think that's how we sorted it out in
Okay.
junior high.
Okay.
That's
Right.
his baby.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, thank you for all the
Sure.
work you guys are putting forth in this. Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next item on the agenda is consideration to approve the agreement with Policy Analytics. Mr. Irwin, I'm sorry. Mr. Irwin?
Yeah, so this is the engagement letter with Policy Analytics that allows them to start doing the tax-based study that we had talked about a few weeks ago during the work session, just to continually improve the information that we're using in order to make better plans as we look out into the future in regards to what our capital needs are, what our tax rate's going to be, and all the planning that goes into that as far as what we want and need over the next 3 to 5 years, and even in the next 1 or 2 years. And so through their services, we'll be able to get some of that information even at the granular level about our tax base and our community. That's going to help us make better projections, better plans, and things that are a little bit more reliable, just like you would see on a student enrollment study. This is very much at that level of planning. And I think sometimes, something that can be missed as far as we think so much about kind of the tuition support side of things, but everything else that goes into our school corporation on the back end to make sure that we're providing a quality environment for our kids. This tax-based study will help us know what it is that we need to plan for and what are the things that we're operating under and some different scenarios and whatnot. So I'm excited about this information that it will provide to me and to Dr. Sanders and to everybody in our office, but also to the board, about what our plans are and how it is that we can continually improve RBB CSC and just continue to make it a better environment for our kids. So I'm excited about this partnership, and have nothing but good things from different people around the school community about what Policy Analytics does and the work that they do and the partnerships that they have with their school partners. So I ask that you guys approve this agreement.
We have a motion for approval?
I'll move approval.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Mr. Irwin, since you're there, let's keep going with the approval of the Indiana Bond Bank resolution.
So this is just like the process that we did earlier in the year when we did a tax anticipation warrant for cash flow purposes. This resolution allows us to continue through the process with the Indiana Bond Bank, who provides short-term cash flow funding for school corporations and governmental entities, just to make sure that we continue to stay on the safe side of cash as we make our debt payments, and the state continually works down our debt service cash balance that we're allowed to have. This just helps us maintain and sleep a little better at night, knowing that we don't need to worry about cash flow or some of those things. And so when we do this process, this resolution doesn't lock us into doing the bond bank, because we're not completely sold right now that we're definitely going to do it. We feel like it's definitely could be a good thing for us because of how it's helped us during the course of this year. And it ended up, the interest on it right now is so low that it is something that really is beneficial to the school corporation throughout the year. And so this resolution just keeps us on track for that. The closing date of when the funds would come through would be January 28th of 21. And so we just keep this process moving, and it leaves that option open for us. And so the next step would be to do the resolution and the document signature, and then we work with Bose McKinney and the Indiana Bond Bank to continue to move forward to have this option available to us.
We have a motion.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt. Our next two items taken together would be to ratify advertisements of bids for the new administration support services building and of the Edgewood High School pool renovation project. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, so at the beginning of November, we were ready to advertise for bids for the new administration and support service building, and also the Edgewood High School pool renovation projects. Rather than delaying the bid process until after the November board meeting, I went ahead and gave permission to advertise for bids on both projects. I had checked with Mr. Kerr and Christine Bartlett on that, and so tonight I'm asking the board to ratify that decision to move forward with the bid advertisements.
I'll move approval.
I second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is consideration to approve the junior high and high school athletic plans for winter sports. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, so back in, I think it was July 6th, we had a board meeting and we approved the sports plan for the fall sports. And I want to tell you that Mr. Ackerman, Mr. Hammett, Mr. Sieglin, and Mr. Pogue did a very good job implementing the fall sports plan. And we had a lot of compliments from parents that were appreciative, even though there were some limitations. They were greatly appreciative that we were able to have a fall season. So Mr. Hammett's here tonight to talk a little bit about the plan for the winter sports.
We did a similar thing. We had a template that we had used, and things that we had from volleyball in the fall, and coming forward, used it and a lot of the things there to make our plans for the winter. But with the winter, they put a little bit more of a squeeze on the attendance that we're allowed to have there, so we had to adjust that. And we had our plan ready, and we sent it to the Board of Health, and then just about a week later, they sent us back a template that they had set up for us to use in the winter that they had worked on. So we went through, and I think that you gave everybody a copy, and the template had kind of the guidelines and procedures requirements from the county and then our actions to be taken, that we had to fill that in. So we went through it, and most of the things we were already in line with. Signage on the outside doors, signs as you went directly into the venue, distances marked off at the ticket areas. Couple things we need to do is to mark off at the high school, our 6 feet mark-offs at the restroom facilities. A couple things we need to take care of that. And they also required here for the high school, they dropped our number down to 100 per side and wanted us to have separate entrances. So now our home people come in the back door so they can go directly in to their side. Visiting people will come in the front because they're more familiar with that. So we just thought that would be easier. And for the high school, they come down the hallway, use the restroom, down the bookstore hallway, use the vending area as their concession area. So we keep them totally separate. At the high school, we've gone to digital ticketing, which people have to buy them online. So if we ever got into a case where we needed to do tracking, we would have emails to do tracking for each different side. So we're covered there. And we've sent these in, and then they had certain guidelines per sports on different things. We marked the benches to where the kids sit apart from each other. The bleachers are marked. I left 5 rows behind the chairs for the kids, so like JV kids could sit up behind, and social distance managers, if they can have plenty of room. Given more room at the bench where they check in and everything, so people can have their distance there. And we're following all the procedures from the IHSAA and NFHS, which is the national federation that covers them, and trying to make everybody as happy as possible. Our concessions are just prepackaged items and drinks. And we're trying our best and doing everything we can. The other night at our home game, Saturday night, we had, I'm going to say about 95 to 97% compliance on wearing the mask the whole time. We asked a couple of people, and then they put it on and didn't sneak it down after we went by later. So people are catching on and cooperating and doing a good job. As I said earlier, at the high school, we went to digital ticketing, which the people buy their tickets online. They bring their phone up, they tap the email that they get with their tickets on it. It has little boxes on. They touch those boxes and touch the validate, so there's no touching of money or passing of money there, so making it as safe as possible. Also, I didn't mention earlier, but at the entrances, we keep the hand sanitizers there, so readily available there, and at the concession lines. So trying to follow and do everything that we possibly can. The junior high, it's going to be a tough deal with them only allowing 100, because with those younger kids, they get a lot more parents that make sure that they're there. The problem that we didn't foresee till this morning, someone told me, I think it's Dr. Bach at the state, recommended, because we were only going to allow home parents at the junior high, since we're only allowed 100 there, but someone said that Dr. Bach recommended to let one parent from each visiting team, just in case a child had an injury, and being a younger child like that, it'd be best to have a parent there. So we backpedaled a little bit. We're going to include that, which I don't think is in here, because that just became aware of that this morning.
Sure.
So
And you know, just like our reopening school plan, we have to be able to adjust as we move forward. So we create the plan, we get input from the health department, they review it, but oftentimes circumstances change and we have to make some adjustments. So I appreciate Mr. Hammett working so hard on this.
One thing you say adjustments is wrestling, they're having the coaches in the whole state are having a little pushback on what they call from the IHSA considerations, because they want the kids to, after they weigh in and after each match, they want them to completely shower and change their singlet, which on a multi-match day, a kid could wrestle 5 matches in total. So a lot of schools don't have that many uniforms, but so that's becoming a tough situation. We normally have a 12-team invite here right before Thanksgiving, and we'd already cut it down into 2 groups, which Owen Valley was going to take half and we're going to host half. And a couple teams dropped out, one because one's still in the football tournament, one had an unfortunate COVID case and they're out because of tracing. But I have snuck around in the building, and I know in the foods area and the cafeteria, I've found out that we have 5 washing machine stations here, so I'm going to help them wash after each match so they can, hopefully they have a couple singlets so we can have a little time to turn them around. But I'll get a manager from each team with me and we'll run them there and get them through a quick wash cycle and do our best to keep it safe for those guys.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Do we have a second?
I second. I have a question too, though. Can I
Before we
ask-
second it? or-
I second it, but then I have a
Okay.
question.
I'm not going to do fabric softener for them if that's right.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion,
So
questions?
statewide, every school corporation is different with what they're doing academically right now, with different, depending on how things are within the community. Athletically then, is it safe to say that every school would be consistent with what we're doing because of how the IHSA?
Not with that wrestling thing, but most everything
With every
else,
other
yes.
sport, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering, like,
The wrestling thing, because there's a state ADs meeting, it's been every Monday since back in March, but starting now, they're gonna go every other week. But a lot of them, they're taking they got the body wipes for the kid to wipe their body down right after
Right.
the match, and then using like antiseptic wipes to wipe off their singlets. That's the way some of them are handling it, because they think it's a little overboard on making them shower and wash. And one side of me thinks that's the way to do, because, you know, we can tell a kid to go in that locker room, but we're not going to have a person sit there and make sure they jump in the shower and take a proper shower to clean themselves up. But, you know, maybe if we're using those wipes, we could have them right there and say, you know, get that done. But, you know, we're going to do the best we can.
Mr. Hammett regularly participates in a state Zoom meeting with other athletic directors, and that's a way to make sure that we know what every other school corporation is doing. But every school corporation also has to adhere to their local health department.
Yeah.
And that is something we all, every school corporation has to do across the state of Indiana.
And our local health department did take the stricter guidelines and had it in there. And as, you know, talking with Dr. Sanders today, there's no penalty for going the extra yard for safety.
Okay.
Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Hammond. Okay, now we're on to consideration to approve the distribution of teacher appreciation grant funds. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, so Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation will receive our state's annual distribution for the Teacher Appreciation Grant this Friday, November 20th. The allocation for RBB CSC this year is $97,482.69 that will be divided among our effective and highly effective teachers. That's down about a little over $455 from last year, but it should be a similar amount that each teacher received last year. We're always excited to be able to give the teachers a little bit extra right before Christmas, and I think it'll especially be meaningful this year.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions, discussion? You say this is slightly down from last year?
$455.42 less.
Oh, total, okay.
Do we know how much each highly effective teacher will receive, and each effective teacher?
No, at this point, it just
Breakdown.
depends on how many teachers we have at effective and how many we have at highly effective. That will determine this year's amount. Last year, the gross pay, our gross amount for what the highly effective teachers received was $538.13, and for effective teachers last year, the gross amount was $430.50. That was for last year.
And the state determines that there's got to be a percentage difference between
There
the
has
two.
to be 25% difference between highly effective and effective.
Okay.
Good question.
Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, consideration to approve the Neola policies, volume 32, number 2. Dr. Sanders?
At the October school board meeting, I presented updates for policies, volume 32, number 2, as a first reading. These updates are being recommended to correct outdated state citations, aligned to changes in state law, revise language to be more clear, to adjust policies to better align with COVID-related orders from the governor, and to align with federal changes related to Title IX. So the board had the opportunity to review these over the last month. Also, Ferguson Law has also reviewed these policies, and they do. Christine does an amazing job. She's very thorough, and she provides me with a clear understanding of what we need to change, and so I appreciate her efforts. I recommend your approval.
Entertain a motion?
I'll move approval.
A second.
Any questions, comments? We'll have time to look through them. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have the public comment on the 2020-2021 collective bargaining agreement, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Sanders.
Yes, before we allow for the public comment, I just thought we would go through some of the changes to the collective bargaining agreement, and Matt Irwin is here also to support my comments and to help answer questions. But on page 6 is a new component which will compensate teachers for when they have to cover a period for another teacher when we don't have enough substitute teachers, or sometimes at the elementary level we have to, a teacher has to absorb a few students from another classroom because we don't have enough substitute teachers. RBB, just like I think every other school corporation in the country, is facing a substitute teacher shortage right now, and especially with COVID. And I think that shortage, just to kind of sidetrack here, goes back to probably last March, April, May, when the substitute teachers weren't working. Some of them went out and had to get full-time jobs. We have some who just are anxious about subbing. A lot of our subs are just retired folks, and they're just might be a little anxious about subbing. And so this new component, secondary teachers will earn 1 paid leave day for every 7 periods that they would cover another classroom during their prep period. Elementary teachers, for every 4 days a teacher absorbs a portion of another teacher's class, the teacher would earn an additional paid leave day. Now, we are, due to COVID, we're not practicing that right now of absorbing students from another teacher's classroom. But that's one of the components of the tentative agreement. On page 7 is health and dental insurance. Health and dental insurance will be fixed at the current dollar amount. The corporation will pay 50% of any future increases in the cost of health insurance. On page 9, we look at the component which addresses time that teachers would need to be off because of being quarantined or having symptoms, something related to the COVID-19. Currently, under the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, employees have up to 10 days to use for COVID-related leaves of absence. For each new COVID-related occurrence that meets the guidelines stipulated in the agreement, the teacher would be granted up to an additional 10 days that they could use rather than their paid leave days. So if for whatever reason through being quarantined that they have to be absent from work and they exhaust those 10 days from the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, then this would give another additional 10 days on top of that for each occurrence. The guidelines for this is the teacher must have been ordered to quarantine by the government, or the teacher has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to being exposed to COVID-19, or the teacher is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and is seeking a medical diagnosis. And it's important to note that this provision does expire June 30th, 2021. Page 28 is the compensation for teachers. Returning teachers who are rated effective or highly effective will move a step on the salary schedule. And I would also like to make note, we have, I think, an excellent relationship with our Classroom Teachers Association. Doug Yules provides great leadership. The teachers who serve on that team, you know, they teach all day, and then it's not just an hour meeting sometimes it's several hours. And so I appreciate all of their work and Matt's hard work and Paul Federer's hard work on this. But we will open this up to a public comment at this time, or at the discretion of Mr. Kerr. I don't want to get ahead of myself, Mr. Kerr.
Yeah, we will open up to public comment. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak on the bargaining agreement, we ask that you come forth at this time. I see no one moving. Okay, so then we will close the public comment portion of the meeting and turn it back over to you.
Okay, and we go on to the next item then, which is my recommendation that the board ratify the collective bargaining agreement. The Teachers Association of Teachers have already done that. We've had our required meetings for the public, and so this comes in the form of a recommendation to approve.
We have a motion.
I'll move approval.
I second.
Any questions or comments? I know this is a difficult time, and funding is difficult at this point, and the work is extremely difficult at this time. So I just really appreciate the administration and the Teachers Association working together to come to a resolution, and we really appreciate the hard work that went into this agreement. So thank you very much. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have Dr. Sanders' report.
Yes, so I am excited to be able to announce that this Friday we will be launching our new website. The website really came out of a lot of input from parents, staff, and other stakeholders. We paid attention to what they wanted in a website, and so you'll hopefully see that a greater ease of access to the website, a cleaner appearance. We're hoping that you'll, as you start to interact with the new website, that you'll see that it's easy to move about. We wanted a one-stop shop for announcements, forms, and other information, and a one-stop shop for communication. We definitely are wanting to use our website, our new website, to market our school corporation. So many families, when they're looking to move into an area, one of the first places they go to is the local school's website, and we want our website to be one which inspires the parent to say, I want to learn more about this school corporation. We want it to be easily linked to other social media platforms. We're looking for this new website to have greater transparency, so it'll be easy to find school board related information, our policies, and we're not finished with it. There really are some other aspects of the website that once we get it going, that we will build in some of those aspects. Hopefully everybody likes the new website, and we'll launch that later this week. Secondly, I just wanted to share with you about our graduate profile. Our Ready Schools design process that we participated last school year provided RBB with great knowledge and valuable insights about who we are and where we can go as a school corporation that would bring great success to our graduates, our community, and our local workforce. I hope that you could see through our mission and vision statements, our graduate profile, that Edgewood Schools are committed to empowering our students to change the world for the better. We hope that like I said, that our new mission statement and vision statements will communicate this commitment. One of the most impactful outcomes of the Ready Schools design process was the creation of our graduate profile. Our hope is that the graduate profile will communicate how we intend to equip Edgewood graduates with powerful skill sets designed to bring success for our graduates, the community they serve, and the businesses that they work for. The graduate profile outlines the skills and mindsets that every Edgewood graduate will leave our schools equipped to apply to their postgraduate plans. This profile serves as evidence of our responsibility as educators to contribute to the economic prosperity of our region and to prepare students as successful community members, not just the future workforce. The profile is a commitment to our community to prepare well-rounded graduates for a regional workforce. Crafting this profile is the first step in mapping out the opportunities for educators and community members to work together to support student learning and to intentionally encourage a thriving future workforce. We recently, Jamie Miller and I, recently met with a local business, and we were able to share the graduate profile, and it gave that business great confidence that we had a plan for our students, a plan that fit well into their plans. This is a corporation-wide initiative, and we created these posters that will go up in each of our schools that shows our graduate profile, so that whether you're at the elementary level, the junior high level, or the high school level, they'll see this poster and it'll become something that they recognize and understand that what they're doing has a purpose, that there's a plan in mind. Our next step with this graduate profile is really to take it and at every grade level be able to show what this graduate profile looks like at first grade, at kindergarten, at third, fifth, and on up. It's not just a high school thing. We hope that as parents and community members, once COVID's over, as they walk through our schools, that they'll be impressed that everywhere they walk, they see this graduate profile, and they will be able to see from pre-K to 12th grade that we have a plan for our graduates, and the plan is for them to be successful, to equip them with the skills they need to be successful. So we're pretty excited about this. I put it on my office door. It reminds me every day what we're all about. So this is what we'll be doing over the next several years, and it already is who we are. So I just was looking forward to sharing that tonight. I asked our Ready School coaches to come to our December board meeting to share more about what we're doing with Ready Schools.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Sanders? Okay, now it's time for RBBEA comments, and we have Mr. Yules here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for approving the contract this year. We appreciate that. Appreciate Dr. Sanders, Matt's work as well. It's always a compromise, push and pull, but I do appreciate the professionalism that we always have together, and that doesn't go, I want to make sure that's not to be overemphasized without a doubt. So thank you for your work with that. Also just want to say, with the SEL information tonight with Tom and Jen, I think that's just another example of how, we've had many teachers say before that we're not so big that we can't keep track of all our students, and we don't like to let any students fall through the cracks. So I think I was trying to keep up with everything they said. It was very informative, but they were excited about it. So again, I think just another example of what we're doing here. So I appreciate their efforts as well. So that's all I have tonight. So I got 8:24 already. So there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Yules. For board member comments, I'll start with Mr. Tucker.
I just want to thank all the administrators for coming out tonight, and thanks for the presentation on the SEL. It's pretty impressive, and it's pretty a monster initiative. So I'll continue to work and pull that all together, and hopefully we'll continue to serve the community well. Thanks again to Mr. Hammett for his presentation this evening, and thanks for the RBB educators for working closely with Mr. Irwin and Dr. Sanders on this contract, and hopefully we can continue to move forward and get through the COVID. I know everybody's wearing down, so thank you.
Mrs. Jacobs.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what Mr. Tucker said. Thank you, administration, our educators, ancillary staff, everything that you guys are doing. You're working so hard, and we appreciate everything that you're doing. I know it's tough, but keep hanging in there. You're doing a great job. I also am very excited. I'm so glad to hear the report that we got to hear from you tonight, because that is very inspiring. And I just can't wait to kind of continue to watch this as it grows and gets bigger and bigger, and where we're going to go with these kids. This is amazing. So thank you for that. I'm excited about the website launching. I really like this, and it's going to be really good, like you said, for our students, our staff, and everybody to see this daily, reminding them, why are we here? What are we doing this for? So that's exciting for me. I also want to just remind everybody to please keep Miss Mary and her family in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Mr. Colonel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to also thank Mr. Norris and Mr. Anderson for their presentation tonight. It was very informative. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to how that's going to work into our system. Matt, thank you so much for keeping us updated like you do. Mick, thanks for your input on the sports and keeping that going for us. I think that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. We had the elections, and so I would like to acknowledge that Mr. Tucker will be with us again for the next 4 years, as will Mr. Durnall. We appreciate their service so far and excited that they're going to continue to stay on the board. And also Mr. Larry DeMoss, thank you so much for putting your name in, and we really look forward to you being on the board. And he's already been involved in seeing what's going on and working with the board, so we really appreciate the effort going in there. As it relates to COVID, I think that RBB is doing a pretty good job. I think the number of students that have to be quarantined and staff is manageable at this point, and my understanding is that so far there's been no transmissions at RBB schools from one individual to another, that all those who have tested positive has been related to outside events and things, and family and things like that. I also caution, though, that with Thanksgiving break coming up, there's going to be a lot of people traveling. There's, the Black Friday and things like that. There's going to be a lot going on over this next week, and so we just ask that you continue to be safe, take the precautions, and it is serious. I just earlier this afternoon talked to someone that lives in my neighborhood, and their mom is on a ventilator. So it's real. So this social emotional learning, thank you so much for what you're doing for our students, and the support that gives not only the students but the parents. I asked earlier, when should a parent maybe ask for help? If you're a parent and you're considering whether you need to ask for help, that's the time to ask for help. So we ask that you do that. You know your child better than anybody else, and you know when they're acting differently or things. So please don't hesitate to reach out for the help that's here. Appreciate the hard work that went into the teacher's contract. I wish we could do more. Right now, we're asking so much more from the teachers than ever before, and they're rising to the occasion as we know they would. They're wonderful groups that we have here, wonderful family, and so we appreciate being able to do what we can do. I also want to people who can keep Deborah Mary in their thoughts and prayers with the loss of her father. And there'll be board signatures, and have a happy Thanksgiving. This meeting's adjourned.